John scraped the last of his instant noodles from the bowl, the salty broth doing little to warm the chill in his small, drafty apartment. He was a construction worker, his hands calloused and his back perpetually sore. Life was a relentless cycle of hard labor and meager pay. But tonight, he decided to treat himself. He'd saved a little extra, enough for a proper meal at the diner down the street. It was a small thing, but it felt like a victory. He walked into the warm, brightly lit diner. The smell of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee, a welcome change from the dust and concrete of his job site. He took a seat in a worn vinyl booth, and a young waitress with kind eyes and a tired smile came over. Her name tag read Chloe. "What can I get for you tonight?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. John ordered a burger and fries, the most decadent thing on the menu for him. As Chloe walked away, he noticed her shoulders were slumped. She disappeared into the kitchen, and a moment later, he heard a muffled sob. He glanced around. The diner was mostly empty, just an old couple in the corner and a trucker nursing a coffee at the counter. When Chloe returned with his food, her eyes were red and puffy. She placed the plate down, trying to force a smile. "Enjoy your meal," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Hey, are you all right?" John asked, his own problems momentarily forgotten. Chloe's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry," she stammered, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "It's just... ... It's been a really hard day." She confessed that her son was sick. Really sick. The medical bills were piling up, a mountain of debt she couldn't see a way over. Her landlord was threatening eviction, and she was working double shifts just to keep their heads above water. "I just don't know what to do anymore," she cried softly. John's heart ached for her. He knew the feeling of desperation all too well. He looked at the burger in front of him, then at the small roll of cash in his pocket. It was his rent money, his grocery money, everything he had. Without a second thought, he pulled it out. It was a little over $500, here he said, pushing the money across the table. "It's not much, but I hope it helps." Chloe stared at the cash, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I can't take this," she said, shaking her head. "This is too much. This is your money." "Please," John insisted gently. "Your son needs it more than I do. I can get by, just ... Take care of him." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Chloe tearfully accepted. She wrote down his address on a napkin, promising to pay him back as soon as she could. John told her not to worry about it and left the diner, his stomach empty, but his heart surprisingly full. The walk home was colder than before, and the instant noodles waiting for him seemed even less appealing. But he didn't regret his decision. He knew what it felt like to be on the brink, and if he could pull someone back, it was worth it. The next few weeks were tough. John worked extra hours, taking on the hardest jobs to make up for the money he'd given away. He ate instant noodles every night, his stomach grumbling, and his landlord sent a stern warning. He started to wonder if he'd made a terrible mistake. He was a good person, but good people still needed to eat. One evening, exhausted and covered in dust, John trudged home, his mind preoccupied with his looming rent payment. As he turned onto his street, he froze. A line of 5 sleek black SUVs was parked directly in front of his small, run-down house. They looked completely out of place in his modest neighborhood. Men in sharp, dark suits stood by the vehicles, their presence imposing and vaguely threatening. John's heart pounded in his chest. Who were these people? Were they from the bank? The landlord? Had he gotten into some kind of trouble he didn't know about? He cautiously approached his own front door, his mind racing. One of the men, tall and stoic, stepped forward. "Are you John Miller?" the man asked, his voice deep and formal. Yes," John stammered. "Is there a problem?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he opened the rear door of the central SUV. A distinguished-looking older man with silver hair and an impeccably tailored suit stepped out. He carried an air of immense wealth and power. John felt small and insignificant under his gaze. "Mr. Miller," the older man said, his voice calm but commanding. "My name is Arthur Vance." The name didn't mean anything to John. He just stood there, confused and intimidated. "I believe you met my daughter, Chloe," Mr. Vance continued. John's jaw dropped. Chloe, the waitress? This man was her father. It didn't make any sense. Chloe was struggling to pay her rent, working double shifts at a diner. This man looked like he owned the city. Mr. Vance saw the confusion on John's face and smiled faintly. It's a long story. Chloe and we had a falling out years ago. She's a proud woman. She wanted to make it on her own without my help. I respected her wishes, but I never stopped worrying. I had my people keep an eye on her to make sure she was safe. He paused, his expression softening. They told me about her son, my grandson, getting sick. And they told me about you. They told me how a man who had very little himself gave everything he had to help a stranger. Mr. Vance gestured toward the house. May we speak inside? John, still in shock, nodded numbly and led the way into his sparse apartment. Mr. Vance didn't seem to notice the peeling paint or the worn-out furniture. He sat on the lumpy couch as if it were a throne. My grandson is going to be okay, Mr. Vance said, his voice thick with emotion. Your money allowed Chloe to get him the immediate care he needed, which gave me time to step in and handle the rest. He's at the best hospital now, with the best doctors. You saved his life, Mr. Miller. Tears welled up in John's eyes. He hadn't just helped with a bill. He had made a real difference. Chloe told me she promised to pay you back, Mr. Vance went on. But I'd like to do more than that. Okay, a man of your character, of your integrity, ... Yet. You deserve more than a life of breaking your back for pennies. He slid a heavy, expensive-looking briefcase onto the coffee table and clicked it open. John gasped. It was filled with stacks and stacks of cash. More money than he had ever seen in his entire life. This is for you, Mr. Vance said simply. A small token of my family's gratitude. Consider it a fresh start. John was speechless. He just stared at the money, then back at Mr. Vance. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Mr. Vance replied, standing up. But I do have a proposition for you. I own a large construction firm. I'm always looking for people with your kind of work ethic and moral compass. I'd like to offer you a job, a management position. You've proven you know how to build things that matter, not just with brick and mortar, but with kindness and compassion. A job, a real career, a way out. It was everything John had ever dreamed of but never thought possible. That day, John's life changed forever. He accepted the job, and with Mr. Vance's mentorship, he quickly excelled. He bought a new house, not a mansion, but a comfortable home where he never had to worry about the rent. He never forgot where he came from, and he made it a point to help others who were struggling just as he had been. He and Chloe became close friends, their bond forged in a moment of crisis and kindness. He was a frequent visitor at her home, a beloved uncle figure to her son, who was now healthy and happy. Sometimes John would drive past that old diner. He'd see the warm lights and remember the night he walked in with an empty stomach and walked out with a full heart. It was a powerful reminder that you never know how one small act of kindness can ripple outward, changing not just one life, but many. And that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in what you have, but in what you're willing to give away. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires. We'll see you next time.